fellow collectors, and welcome to Long's Toys. Today we are taking a look at Deluxe Predacon RETRAX from the Beast Wars Transformers reissue line from Kenner, aka Hasbro. So this whole line is exclusive to Walmart, but they are available on Hasbro Pulse as well. That's where I got mine. It did arrive kind of almost completely off the card, so if you're an inbox collector, just something to be wary about. I don't know what you really do to combat the situation. I guess you just have to contact them and hopefully they send you another one. Luckily for me, I opened them, so it's really not that big a deal. But love the retro packaging. I love the artwork of the robot mode up here. I don't know if I'm going to love the actual robot mode because from the picture down here, it really just looks like the entire bug mode just kind of lays horizontally across his back. So we'll see how it goes. This is definitely one I never had as a kid, but I love the bug mode. It looks really, really cool. The colors are very bright and vibrant. Really pops, so that's really, really cool. Spinning it around to the back, you have the instructions here. You have the tech specs. I did want to point out one thing, though, because I thought this was a little intense. So function, Desert Demolition. RETRAX survives in a series of cool, cavernous tunnels lined with the remains of his fallen enemies. Yikes. Okay, little intense, but we'll go with it. So that's pretty much it for the packaging. I'm going to go ahead and get him out of there, and we'll take a closer look. So here is RETRAX in bug mode. It's kind of a really neat design. They have this kind of bluish green, kind of smoky, translucent plastic that kind of, they've painted this neon yellow on top with kind of a gradient effect. It's really kind of neat. You also have these tiny little legs. You have 4 on each side that you can kind of move up and down. He's got these antennae that you can kind of push towards the body or pull all the way away. The directions I thought showed that these were facing the other way, and I think that's just an error because you can't spin them at all. They just move forward and back. He's got these little pincers on the front that you can click open, and then you push this little button here back, and they close. And then you have a similar mechanism back here for this like stinger, which is pretty cool. So, I mean, he's got a lot more articulation than you would think, just being kind of a giant, rectangle or cylinder or whatever you want to call him. He's kind of also got some movement in these little segments that you can kind of play with. But his real big feature, you have these 2 pieces right here, and you kind of lift him up as you push these together, and he will kind of collapse into like a little ball, kind of like a pill bug, which is kind of fun. He can't really roll around all that well because of all the various things that he's got kind of sticking out of him, but you can still use both of these gimmicks, so I think that's really fun. But honestly, he just kind of looks like a little floating sphere. It's like, kind of like a Ego or Unicron or something like that, just kind of floating around. Especially with these things on the front, I'm getting Unicron vibes. So that's just kind of fun. I just think it's neat. I wish he could roll a little better, but it makes sense with all the pieces hanging off of him that he's not really going to be able to roll. But I think the fact that he can collapse into like a little pill bug is pretty cool. So if we pop this all the way back out. So yeah, I mean, honestly, for a giant kind of cylindrical rectangle bug, he does a lot more than you would expect. And I think that's kind of cool. We'll see how the springs hold up over time, because I already kind of feel like there are times when they don't stay latched and things flip around. So we'll see how that holds up. But overall, pretty fun. But let's go ahead, let's get to the transformation. So, truth be told, there's really not a lot going on with the transformation. We're going to flip them upside down. You can kind of see the arms already. You can see the legs. So we're just going to, and I'm sure this is going to continue to pop. Yeah, so we'll get into it. So we go ahead, and first we're going to just fly the legs out like so. This is going to rotate down, and then you just kind of stretch out the legs. And then we're going to flip up the little feet. And then if you want, you can tuck all these little legs in. The directions don't have you do that, but you absolutely can, and it looks like they were meant to. So I'm thinking just to tuck them out of the way for robot mode. Let me zoom out here and angle the camera up. So that way, just a little bit cleaner back here. Next, you're going to take this section here and kind of rotate it down. Now, the way this has this little notch here, it makes it seem like it's supposed to connect somehow to the waist, but I can't figure out a way to make that happen. The directions show like move this down, and then they have like almost like a lines drawn like it's going to click into place, but I can't see anything to click. It doesn't need to. I mean, it's not overly like loose or anything. I mean, because this section is so defined, it doesn't really need to snap into place for stability, but it would be nice if it did. This section is going to rotate down to kind of form the little chest plate, and then you're just going to rotate the head up like so. And that's most of the transformation, honestly. We can do some stuff with the arms, though. So you have a couple options. If you want, you can unhook this here, and then this whole section will kind of rotate forward. But as you can see, as this one's already popped off, the hands can come out of there. So if you want to keep them all connected, he can kind of use them almost like boxing gloves. And then you can just kind of like bear hug people and really just kind of like smash. But if you want kind of a more traditional look, you can bring this, and then you can see this peg back here. And you can kind of peg this back in. But everything's a little loose because of the kind of spring-loaded nature of everything. So you can kind of peg this back in, and hopefully that'll stay. His legs are just all over the place. What happened with this? There we go. So if we pop this hand out, then you can kind of bring this back and peg that in. And then if you want just the hands here, you can do that. I mean, he still kind of claps. And because he's so back heavy, it's sometimes difficult to get him to stand. You kind of just have to find the right weight distribution is what I was trying to say. So there you go. He can kind of stand. Like I said, he can definitely clap. You know, if you take him to a performance and he's very pleased, he can give a standing ovation. You do have this joint here so that you can see this little pin right here, and you can kind of bend this like that. I don't really know what that does for you, but you can, and you can obviously move the hand like this. So you do have some options there. I wish these would stay together a little better. But again, they're all spring-loaded, so everything just wants to fly off at all moments. But if you want, like I said, you can take this off and then peg these back in. You can see it's a very simple just peg right there and then the peg hole right there. And so this just pegs back in like so. And you can kind of situate it. Let me unpeg this there. But like I said, the spring doesn't always hold. So like I said, he's kind of a floppy mess, but he's still kind of fun. I mean, honestly, he's got a lot going on, and he's got a lot of different options. Okay, I don't have the hand lined up. But you can see that there's not a lot of success in kind of just getting this to stand. I just wish the hands could be worked a little better. Because honestly, I don't mind this in the back, these kind of like little wings. And I love the head sculpt. I think that looks so fun. It kind of reminds me of like a wrestling mask, which kind of makes sense because this guy is kind of, you know, definitely about melee combat. He's just bear hugging and smashing everybody. I wish the hips were a little bit stronger because as you can see, the ball joints for the hips are a little loose on mine. Now, that could just be mold fatigue because these toys are, wow, 25, 30 years old at this point. But I think overall the design is cool. I kind of like these wings on the back. I think the chest plate looks good. I love the color scheme. The head sculpt is great. I just wish the hand and arm situation was a little bit more stable. Let me see. Can I get him to stand? There we go. So he's a lot better than I thought he was going to be. Like I said, I think this section actually, the way that these are kind of not a solid piece, but because they're kind of connected but still like layered, they kind of work as wings on the back. But the two arms just make him so front heavy. But I do kind of like the bear hugging attack aspect. Like you can just go ahead and grab onto these. You kind of have to hold the feet down in place. But he can just kind of, you know, smash somebody or really just get them in like a bear hug and put some hurting. Let's go. You can really just go around and grab enemies and, you know. So that's why I feel like the head sculpt really works because there's definitely kind of like a wrestling, you know, melee feel to his gimmick. He doesn't come with any guns or anything like that, so he's definitely about just, you know, fighting as opposed to long-range combat. So he's fun. Like I said, he's kind of a floppy mess, but in a really fun way. I like the pill bug, you know, in the bug mode, how you can kind of curl up into a ball like that. I wish you could roll a little bit better, but still really cool. And the way you can kind of use the arms to kind of like pincer grab people, you know, giant bear hugs. I think that's really kind of neat. And the fact that you can actually take the hands out and kind of pull this section back if you want to give them like a little bit of a leaner look, I think that's also kind of cool. So you have some decent options. I mean, if you like the look of the giant hands and you want to use those for fighting, you can. If you want to pull the hands out and kind of just pin these back to just become, you know, more of his kind of backpack here, you can totally do so. So I think there's definitely fun to be had with this guy. He's not perfect by any means, but I mean, he is a 25, 30-year-old toy at this point. And that's why I'm not a huge fan of spring-loaded gimmicks in toys, because over time those springs wear out and things get loose. And I could easily see that happening here because there's a lot of weight being distributed in this area that it's a lot of tension on the spring. And the more you try to keep the large amount of weight back, the more stress it's going to put on that spring, and it's just not really going to hold up. But I think there's definitely fun to be had here. Like I said, I love the color scheme. I think the paint effect on top of the translucent plastic really works for the bug mode. I absolutely love the head sculpt. You know, decent articulation. I guess I should officially run through articulation. There's not a ton, but you have kind of a limited ball joint here at the head, so you can side to side, you can front to back. As you know, you have the spring loaded there for the arm. You have that joint I showed you, as well as the wrist joint. You don't really have anything in the like midsection here, but you do have that ball joint for the hip. I think there's a thigh swivel. Yeah, it looks like there's a thigh swivel. Really tight knees, though. I will give him that. Those knees are incredibly tight. And then you can kind of tip the foot up. So I guess if you wanted to get him in kind of a pose like that, you actually could. So he's got decent articulation for, you know, toys of that era. He's just got a lot of weight to deal with across the back and the sides. But if you can, you know, distribute the weight properly, you can get him to stand. So, like I said, I think he's a lot of fun, but you have to know what you're getting into going into it, because he is kind of a floppy mess. But it's in a fun way, if that makes any kind of sense. The play feature here is fun, even though it makes him unpredictable, we'll say. You have to really struggle to find a pose to get him to stand, but I think the fun on this one outweighs the fact that he's a floppy mess. So I still recommend checking him out. Like I said, I got this one at Hasbro Pulse, but I think he should start to show up in Walmart stores soon. So if you're interested, check him out. Maybe wait for a sale. I know a lot of times in Walmart stores, these go on clearance. And if you could find this guy for like 15 bucks, then I say he's a steal. Definitely grab him. Full price, 25. Your mileage may vary. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. And as always, thanks so much for watching.